Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, we're going to do it. This is going to be the last one of these top 10s for 2022 in December. We'll revisit them in June of 2023. I've been having an absolute blast, learned a ton. As you know, I polled my server. I put up a couple, more than a couple, quite a few suggestions, and people who've earned those honorary roles and roles of respect and titles can add on. And we finally did it. We did the top 10 in the whole game as it exists in December of 2022. Now, this game is so big, so complex. We talk about this all the time on this channel that I'm going to have some more fun. We're going to add on. We're going to do the top 15. Now, there's a lot of champions to talk about. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I have for all the other ones, but this is also one to be learning some what do I think, what does my server think, because I'm going to tell you what I think as well, but also have fun. Let me know, where are you using these champions? Who do you think should have been there? Who should not have been on there? I do enjoy that back and forth, and I enjoy learning so much from my server as much as the comments from these videos as well too. Now, I'm going to go over the honorable mentions that do not make it on my server's top 15. Starting off with Shang-Chi with 11 votes. When you're listing the top 10 champions in the game, to get 11 votes or 11 points as I tabulated the votes, that's actually pretty meaningful, and he barely didn't make it. Red Magneto didn't make it, but came in with 10 points, and Gallon did not make it and came in with 8. That is how incredible the champions on the top 15. And I don't have the exact list, and I will give you my list, but I can't say that they're wrong. Somehow Omega Red didn't make it, and I do think they're wrong there. I think they probably are. Valkyrie gets honorable mention. Spot only been in the game like 3 months, but getting an honorable mention, and I think it's deserved. We'll talk about it. And then OG Black Panther, Venom, Terax, and Punisher 99. Those were some favorites of people who've earned some real roles. And you know what? I appreciate them. I love them being on my server. I love my server. So I'm going to put that in the video. Honorable mentions. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about my list, because to really put them through 1 through 15, I found to be kind of difficult if I'm trying to kind of give you my opinion on things. And so I'm going to have some champions that aren't going to make it on my server's list, and I'm going to list them briefly. And then when they come up on my server's list, so that way this video doesn't take a whole hour, I will then tell you where I have them, okay? The champions that didn't actually make it on my server's list, some of them are actually quite surprising. This one was the most surprising by far, though, and I'm almost wondering if they just fell through the cracks somehow, is Archangel. Archangel is in my top 15, and I actually have it broken down into 3 tiers. And in this tier, he's in what I call flirting with broken. And what do I mean by that is that I do have champions who are just broken. Like, I think they actually probably make the game more difficult to design, make challenges more difficult to design. When new defenders and nodes and attackers come out, they sometimes probably have to, I don't know, is my guessing, they probably have to consider these champions and then design around them or specifically for them. And so in a way, as much fun as those broken champions can be, they almost might not be healthy for the game. And I do really like how Kabam's been handling them as a challenge. And I think there was points in times where Archangel probably was broken. Then, because so many poison and bleed immune champions came into the game, he fell off significantly in use. And then now, because the game is so big, so complex, there's so many champions that have a bleed or a poison or neither, and there's nodes that can hurt him a little bit, and we're seeing things become immune to ability accuracy reduction and stuff like that. I think he's probably just really flirting with being broken, and I have him on the list, and if I had to just do a pure top 15, he would definitely make it. Now, I said I'm not going to talk in too much detail about every champion so that we don't have an hour-long video. I will list the other champions that did not make my server's list but are on mine, and these are champions that I feel are like, they're just right. You know, not too hot, not too cold, just right. Goldilocks there. We've got Gallon, Quicksilver, Omega Red, Spider-Man 99, and Mr. Fantastic. They're all phenomenal champions. If you want to hear more detail about them, you can obviously go to what looks like Cosmic Science and so forth, and you can hear me talk a lot more detailed about them, but they're phenomenal. They're great, and they're well within my, like, the just right tier and my top 15 champions. Okay, now let's go ahead and move to my server's number 15 ranked champion in the game. And it's Cosmic Ghost Rider. I mean, we talked about this in the Cosmic list. This is, I think he was one of the first ones where I'm like, I think he legitimately has an argument, or reasonable people can say, I think they're the best champion in the game. So many people play him, love him, but of course, when you think of Cosmic Ghost Rider and MCoC, you often think of Slayer of Gods. He's done a phenomenal job with his channel, like cleaning up a lot of videos and really succinctly getting down various rotations and talking about it. This champion is so much more configurable than I know. I realized when he first came into the game, and I think a lot of other people understood him to be. But as players like Slayer and many others have stress tested him in EOP fights in 8.1 and 8.2 and Act 7 and various big bad bosses and war, we found that through understanding his judgment system, how it works, how to reset it, you can often figure out a way to do the fight. He is phenomenal. And when you're in a game this big, I think it's not shocking to see him in the top 15 still, because that's how good he is. And he really does have an argument, as really any of these champions could be, for being the #1 champion in the game. He comes in number 15, and I have him solidly in my list of 15 of champions that are in that just right tier. But they're not hurting the game. They're not flirting with being broken. And he's in my top 15 as well. Coming in at number 14 with only receiving 2 votes. Only 2 people voted for him. This is a server with about 800 people on it. Only 2 people voted for him, but they both put him as the #1 champion. To the surprise of really no one on the server, it was actually Mando and I wanted to call him Captain America, but Ozfan himself. Ozfan is the biggest Captain America fan, I think, probably in MCoC. Uses him for so many things. But the fact of the matter is, Cap's that good. You invest in him and you put in with his synergies, which Ozfan does, Punisher 99 and all kinds of champions like that. You get him to 6,200. It's not surprising. That's how it feels like timeless. Like we're about to hit 2023, and you can see right there, he came into the game in 2018, relatively early in it too. And he can still handle so many things. And part of that, I do think, is that they keep giving him synergies. Like I know he got the synergy with the Mystic champion recently, and he gave him like a stagger too. Like he did not need this. He's a better Mystic champion than some other Mystic champions, but this isn't the video for that. I think he makes sense. He is on my list as far as that just right category. He is one of the top 15 champions in the game. I think if you pull him early and you're willing to invest, you don't have to pull him early, but you're willing to invest in him, he's going to be good enough in a lot of places where other champions have started to encroach on his territory, but he's still good enough where he's going to get you through that content, solve it for you, and he's a phenomenal champion, well-earned and deserving of that 14th rank. Okay, coming in at number 13, we've got Tigra. We've talked at length about how it does take a high skill to play her and maximize what she can do, but as my buddy Jacob pointed out to me, it feels like years ago now on stream, he's like, you don't have to be, let's say, Fintech or Buddy Lee or Doc with Tigra to get a lot out of her. And he was absolutely right. I took her to 200, rank 3, and sometimes I do 5-hit parries. And yeah, I've learned how to punish heavies and things like that with her, and I get phenomenal results. I recently faced Karate Mike in my Battlegrounds tournament, and one of the few rounds I won was actually he placed his Cersei, and I was able to barely beat him because he did so phenomenally well on his side. But I did beat him with my rank 3 Tigra against a Cersei. It's a great matchup for Tigra, but even a player of my knowledge set and skill set with her was able to get that phenomenal score. She's got the really powerful neutralize, and it's relatively rare in the Mystic class to have a nuke like her. I think that she is not broken, but I would imagine with the powerfulness of her neutralize and the speed with which she can do significant damage, I would imagine and some people at Kabam might feel like she's flirting with that, flirting with broken, but I have her in my just right tier for a healthy games atmosphere. She's in there, and she is definitely in that top 15. My servers got her at number 13. All right, coming in at number 12 on my servers list is Human Torch. And this is going to speak volumes too about how different people frame all of these things. Because many people feel like he's the best champion in the game, or at least the best science. And I can't tell them they're wrong. And I think a lot of that, though, is actually due to his pre-fight. Being able to just automatically come in and set up those very powerful passives that he has, and just not having to work for them. Now, I think they clearly tried to limit it by you only really being guaranteed of it once in a quest and that sort of thing. But we saw even in Abyss of Legends where, you used it for Mephisto, but then you were still able to use him, and he was really, really powerful. He really doesn't need it. And I'm not saying I want it taken away, but I have him in my flirting with broken. I think the fact that it's limited to one guaranteed use makes it fine. But if it was more, I think he's broken and it's an issue. But I don't think the game has grown so much. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this, but the game has grown so much and it's so complex that, yeah, I have him in this top list, but I have him in the flirting with broken because I think where he's good, he kind of is broken. But fortunately, the game has grown so much that there's plenty of places where he's not good. And so he's not breaking the whole game. I understand why my server has him at 12. The voting on him was all over the place. And I think that's because some people think he's number one. Some people think he doesn't even deserve to be on the list. As a result, ends up at 12, worthy of that. I have him in my flirting with broken tier. Coming in at number 11 is our first 2022 champion on the official list. Of course, that doesn't include the honorable mentions and things like that. Is we have Rintra. We're running out of the things to say about him. He is big. He is tanky. He will heal back up for you. He has probably the best neutralizer in the game, definitely against cosmic champions he does. And then you can get these incredibly powerful SP2s, and even if they don't crit, if you have this awakened ability going, you almost can get pushed to your SP3 sometimes. You're going to get back to the SP2 very quickly, and when it does crit, oh boy, it ends that fight for you phenomenally fast. He is well worth the number 12. I think he is well suited for the game is and where it seems to be going. I do think, though, it would be possible for Mystic champions to come in and kind of go above him in the tier because he's so different than Doom, but I think has a very clear and reasonable argument to be considered the number 2 Mystic champion in the game. Kind of give away who's number 1 there. But I think there's design space for other champions to come in. We've got like our Mojos and just he has no power control. So I'm very interested to see where this Mystic class goes. They came out pretty low on my overall rankings as we started all of this, despite having some real banger champions. So I'm very curious to see where the Mystic class goes in 2023. I think Rintra is incredibly powerful, but I think there's a lot of design space there that's different between Doom and Rintra has shown me how powerful Mystic can be while still being incredibly different than Doom. I've got Rintra in my totally normal, all good, little safe tier, definitely in the top 15. Strong argument to, I don't think, be number 1. Honestly, I don't. But I do think he has argument to be one of the best champions of 2022. And it's definitely a great argument for being the top 15 champions in the whole game. Number 10, Big Daddy APOC, right? We've talked at length about him. You don't need to have the cable synergy like I know I initially did, like on day 1 or 2 of pulling him. He's so good. He can do so much damage, and his health pool is large enough that even if that first fight or 2 takes a little bit longer, which it might, right? He's not as strong as he is when he's fully ramped up and has all his, I think it's genetic code or genetic energy or what have you, or genetic enhancements, that he'll be okay. He'll be okay. And then especially if you have him awakened, I know people don't love or rave about his awakened ability, but it'll save you items. It'll heal you up. It's really nice. So I do like that about him. He obviously can make the whole team better. He can make a lot of other mutants, turn them into horsemen, and then they become phenomenal. We've done some kind of like horseman rankings videos on this channel. And one of the things we talk about, though, is do you really want to weaken your Apocalypse? You've got them all fully ramped up, and that's such a tremendous weapon. That horseman you make has to be very specifically fitting the niche that you need for that fight, or they need to be that good. And that's part of the evaluation, right? Because you are taking that from Apocalypse. He can get the immunity sets up. He can handle evade for you. He is phenomenal. He's great. And he's still, I think, the only champion that can go, what is it, concussion immune. He's phenomenal. He's amazing. I love him. I do think he is a champion that has an argument to be the best champion in what I am now calling kind of the just right tier. I don't think he's flirting with broken, and I don't think he is broken. He's about as good as a character or a champion should get in a game like this, and still keeping that very healthy competitive balance amongst all the champions. Okay, coming in my servers rankings at number 9, this one kind of surprised me a little bit, and it shows you just kind of depends on who's voting, and I think also what you're comparing them to. Not gonna give away anything because I don't know what order you're gonna watch these things in, but I think you'll be like, hey, wait, that seems off when you see him, and then another champion that's about to come up in the rankings. I love this champion. To me, he falls into, he being Hulkling, for those who are just listening, he falls into that just right territory. I don't think he's threatening to break the game. I don't think he's even flirting with it, but he's so well made for where the game is now, and he clearly was designed to handle problems like Penny Parker, but there's so much also in his kit that makes him good elsewhere. He's not just an amazing penny counter. He's just very strong to dominate in other ways. He's got immunities. He's got a power gain. He has a heal. He can go indestructible. He's also a phenomenal defender. So I think he was actually the highest rated defender in my latest Battlegrounds tournament. We've been keeping incredible stats to that. Not channel member Adam has been doing it, not me. And he's been kind enough to share them with me. And Hulkling, I think we all knew it was amazing, but to actually see the statistics on it show how phenomenal he is. He has some incredible synergy partners, but you don't need them. He's really got everything he needs right into his kit. He's great without the awakened ability, but I love the awakened ability, and I take him to Sig 200 because I love where is it, the personal fury buff. That's the one that I love the most, because you throw that big SP2, it doesn't often do the kill for you, at least not the first one, but in certain smaller health pool fights like Battlegrounds or War, keeping that fury buff often has allowed me to go ahead and just finish on beating on the defender and finish them off. And having those two big nice furies goes a long way to making sure you actually finish that champion off. If I really had to sit there and do like 1 through 15, I probably would have him as my number 1 champion with Kingpin and Nimrod. I know it's hard to really say, but with Kingpin and Nimrod in my, they don't break the game. They're not flirting with breaking the game. In that top 15, he's in that tippy top tier with them, Nimrod and Kingpin and Hulkling for sure. I love the champion. Cannot speak more highly about it. Okay, in my server's rankings, coming in at number 8 is Scorpion. And again, some of you are going to watch, it depends on what order you watch these in, and the order of the best of 2022, you're going to be like, did your server forget what they've done before? But again, I think it's just probably related to new people coming in, also what you're comparing them to, and it just happens, right? A 1 vote here or there, 2 or 3 votes here or there, just slightly different, could make a big difference because they're scored actually very close to each other. There's a reason one is 8 and 1 is 9, and they were so close in the other video as well. Scorpion's phenomenal, right? Shifting immunities, shifting damage sources, the ability to choose that. He has a taunt. You get him awakened, he can block unblockable attacks when he's got the taunt up. In Battlegrounds, which I know I love, I know a lot of you love, you get the Petrify up, you're healing back, you can end fights at 100%, despite having made a mistake earlier. He's got great block proficiency. He has some really nice synergies. You can give him a refreshable slow and that passive fury if you pair him up with Venom or Agent Venom, and he can make Agent Venom this outrageous damage machine too if you add the synergy with Kraven. So he's great. I get why people like him. I prefer Hulkling, but I definitely have Scorpion in my just right tier, healthy for the game, top 15 overall as well. Coming in at number 7, and I know I often point out these tier jumps. The thing with this one was there really aren't. I'll point out some tier jumps kind of when they come, but this has just been a steady, slow incline. Like Scorpion had 75 points, Nick Fury had 89. These aren't massive jumps, and it makes sense because it's really difficult to separate these champions out. But we have Nick Fury, right? One of the things I do want to point out about him, because I know we've talked at length about these champions, is the recent War meta node, and I think it was Conduit, showed one of how powerful he is that he was great for it despite not being an attacker, having the attacker tactic that combated Conduit, because he didn't need to knock champions down. You could just end your combos in a light in his first life and often do enough damage that everything was fine. I have him in my flirting with broken tier. There's a little part of me because of his stats and things like that maybe wanted to put him in my broken tier, but I don't think he is. He spends most of his time in the first life, and you only get that transition to the second life once. You can't heal him up to 100%. Like if you win a fight, but you send him into the his real life or whatever it's called, his second life, you can't then heal him up over that quest and then get that first life back. I think that, and then the fact that even if you have him at an exceptionally high sig, his life model decoy will go down, or his life pool will go down. So you have to play him, I think that's 30%, which means even the slightest mistake, you're gonna die. I think he's very, very powerful in that mode, and his first life is very powerful too. But overall, I feel like I'm comfortable with that. And I think that's why we don't see him more, and why, I have Kingpin rated higher in the video that I made on them. And despite fully recognizing that some of his stats, some of his damage capabilities, some of the things he can do almost appear broken, So I've got him in the flirting with broken tier. There's only 3 champions in it. We've talked about all of them. That's Fury, there's Human Torch, and there's Archangel. And I think that's similar for all of them, is that there's something about them that prevents them from doing this game-wide. You know, Fury, it's that second life, and the fact that it goes all the way down to 30% and you can't reset it. Human Torch is that it's a single pre-fight, and for the most part, it's probably not coming back. And then Archangel, in that there are these fights that, you know, make it so you can't reduce ability accuracy. There are enough champions that aren't bleed immune, that are bleed immune, that are poison immune. And so, like, I feel like in a different game or a different set, or without these contingencies or restrictions, they probably are broken. But because it is this game, because it is so big, because there are these contingencies or things that they need to meet or that happen in their kit, they're not broken. I think they're just flirting with it enough. I got Fury in that tier. He's clearly one of the top 15 champions in the game. All right, coming in at number 6 is Kitty Pryde. This did surprise me. If you've caught my mutant video, you know how strongly I feel about her, how great I think she is. And she's actually on this list going to be the first champion that I have in my broken tier. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 champions in there, and I think she's firmly in it. I do think that you kind of need the synergies to fully implement her into that broken tier. But those synergies are with Ghost and with Tiger, and you really only need that with Tiger. And Tiger is on the top 15 as it is. So it's really not that hard to bring her in. But in Battlegrounds, quests like EOP, you often can't bring in those synergies. I know in EOP there's the version where you can. But in a lot of the other boss fights, you just can't. It's just you. And we talked about it in the mutant video too, that one of the reasons why I put her in this tier is that her counter would be champions, or you would think her counter would be champions that could handle her miss, but it actually isn't. If you hit her while she's phasing, it creates this very cheese scenario that we've seen time and time again. So I do have her kind of in this broken tier, but she's really the first one of it. It's not surprised that she's not higher up in the rankings, despite me thinking she's clearly one of the best champions in the game. And I personally would put her a little bit higher. I've got her in my broken tier. I also happen to feel she's one of my most fun champions to play. I've recently taken her to rank 4, and I have absolutely no regrets doing it. You get her. She's going to handle so much for you. If you have more interest or questions or comments on her, I do talk about her more in length in my mutant video. I've done quite a few videos on her, some guides and warplay and things like that as well. And there's plenty of kitty content out there too. So let's go ahead and move on to the server's number 5 champion. Number 5 champion is Nimrod. This also surprised me. There's a lot of Nimrod love on my server. I was extremely early on Nimrod. There's a lot of videos on him. I was calling him the Tech Human Torch, and I was one that really had the overall message of it's not just mutants. It's healing and it's prowess. And those are not just mutants. They're also in nodes and other champions in the game. His signature ability is outrageously powerful. Look at that. It increases the potency and duration of the effects off the special attack. So that's a big thing. It's so interesting to me to see him up at number 5, because I actually have him in my he's not even in my flirting with broken tier. He's in my just good old fashioned regular healthy for the game tier. Some people might disagree because he does just handle mutants, but we do have the mutant like Bishop. He's not amazing against Havoc either. He can struggle. There's other tech champions that are better for it, right? Like we have Infamous Iron Man and things like that. So I think he's within that kind of balanced, healthy ecosystem of a game. That being said, he's incredible. He's amazing, and he can take fights that aren't just mutants, that aren't just healing, that aren't just prowess, but boy, do those help him out a lot. I like him. I love him. I get why he's there. We are about to start seeing some vote jumps, though, and I think we could start to maybe call it a tier move as we go through my server's top 4. Okay, number 4. I mean, I was still kind of learning my way around YouTube. I still am, actually. Who are we kidding? But I've learned a little bit more since I did this video. Or I call him, like, I think he might be the best skill champion in the game. Felt like really going out on a ledge at the time because Fury was just considered the most dominant by far. Now, I did say that I thought he needed his synergies, but then I soon afterwards made another video saying, like, actually, I don't think he needs those synergies. The synergies can be really nice. It can help him handle evade and other things like that. And the synergy partners, like I'm looking at the one right now with Hood and Joe Fixit, both amazing buffs, great champions, right? He's fantastic. He's healing up. I feel like he is kind of unique in the skill class in some ways, right? He doesn't have slow. His SP1 can reduce ability accuracy. He can go unstoppable. He can go unblockable, which is really nice. I've got him at a nice high sig. He's a good defender. He's incredibly tanky. So if you make some mistakes with that healing and his health pool, he's going to heal back up. The damage can be phenomenal. You can get him, if you get the Hood synergy, you can get him to shrug 100% of the debuffs. And the thing is, the way he works, unless those debuffs are potent enough to kill you in their initial implementation, if you don't have the synergy and he doesn't shrug them, when he gets to 8, he's going to turn them into something that makes him more powerful anyway. So you can measure it against the node and the debuffs that might be being applied to you, and maybe just use them to power you up if you don't have room to fit Hood and Joe Fixit, who are very good in this game. I think it makes sense to see him this high up. It's a little bit surprising, but when I look at the list, I'm like, I get it. And here's the wild thing. I thought about maybe putting him in the flirting with Broken, but then when I compared him to the reasons why Fury, Human Torch with Human Torch Free Fight, and Archangel were there, it's like, no, he doesn't fit any of those qualifications. He just doesn't. And he doesn't kind of break the game the way I think the other 4 champions who are in the Broken tier are. There's not these cheese and things like that are coming out of it. It feels legitimate. He's great. He's phenomenal. I've been using those words a lot this month. But that's what happens when you do top 10 lists. I definitely have him in my everything's healthy, good for the game, good for the ecosystem. Top 15. He's definitely in that top tier with Hulkling and Scorpion and champions like that. Number 3 champion according to my server is Ghost. And there have been some more tier jumps, vote jumps. There's going to be another one though for number 2 and number 1. I think it's going to make some of you happy because that was some of the most like whatever comments was in the tech one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the tech one. I think it's really good. There's a lot of other champions in the game besides Ghost and Nimrod. You see how close my server had them here, but Ghost did win by a good margin. And if I'm really just looking at it from best champions in the game and not looking at it from account building, those sorts of things, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I will tell you that every champion left now in my server's rankings is in my broken tier. I told you those 4 champions. They're in my broken tier where I'm like, I think that they probably make designing the game very difficult. They make probably designing quests and nodes very difficult, challenges difficult, defenders and attackers that come into the game very difficult because you have to almost design around them. She's amazing. She's coming in 2018, and I remember this. I remember going and getting her and being like, she's going to be incredible. And I was a very not good player at the game at this time, but I was still soloing Alliance War Tier 1 bosses for my alliance with her because that's how powerful she was. You throw on recoil, you throw on your power back boost. Morningstar was a very popular boss at the time, and even a player of my skill level could solo them relatively easily. She gets rid of debuff. She can't be evaded. Really great players and really great Ghost players at least have gotten to the point where they don't even need the Wasp's energy, but Wasp isn't bad, and Ghost can handle so much for you that even if you don't rank up your Wasp, you just bring her along. She has those special attacks go unblockable for you. She handles so many of the problems that the game can present at you. And one of the things I love about Mystic Champions is that they're all frequently dealing with power. And I think that's part of why I would imagine Mystic Champions are hard to balance and create and come up with. And then one of the reasons you've heard me talk and go on and on and on about like Hyperion and Hulkling as these power gains. Well, she's got that. And it's just works into her kit because you want to be dashing back and phasing anyway. And then when a champion hits into you, you gain power. She's phenomenal. She's amazing. There's a reason why she's probably going to be continuously alternating in Alliance War, being banned and not banned. She even having finding uses for her in Battlegrounds, which I guess is not surprising at all, even though you can't bring in Wasp. She's great. She's phenomenal. There's a reason why I have her in my broken tier. You know, these are champions. If I had to just give like an example or like a prediction on them, I have a feeling we don't see them as 7 stars. It's going to be like Magic and Quake. Okay. So I would, if you, myself, I'm probably going to rank her to rank 4 relatively soon because I just don't think I'm going to see her as a 7-star. I could be wrong on that, but that's just how I'm framing it. Of course, if you remove these tiers that I'm creating, she's well within the top 15 champions in the game. Okay, another tier jump to get up to the number 2. In fact, when I was tabbing in the votes at first, I was like, is Doom going to win? Which wasn't shocking. It just was a little bit surprising. That's how good he is. I know there's people who think that like Clairvoyant or Diablo or Tigra, I know for a while, you have to go back quite a ways, like 2 years. I thought Sorcerer Supreme was encroaching upon his territory based on what the game was asking us to do. Hood is very, very good. Rintra is excellent, but as we talked about, he doesn't have any of the power control. And here's what's crazy. If Doom had a neutralize, he'd kind of almost have everything else that those champions have. I guess he doesn't have the Fate Seal of Hood, and he doesn't have the Mist mechanic, but if you took a lot of what those champions had and put them all together, he's got some version of it, and it's not just the Doom cycle. Yes, it's amazing, and it has saved me so many times where I just don't know what's going on, I make a mistake, and then I just somehow get the shock up on the defender, and I slap him, and then all of a sudden the fight is totally under control, and with his crit resistance and his armor, and champions or players are using him to fight Korgs in battlegrounds. He's just taking so many fights that like it's not what you thought it would be. And we've often talked in this channel about the difference between generalist, specialist, and generalist, specialist, and niche champions. Okay. And there was a very long time in this game where you wanted these dominant generalists and then maybe some niche champions that could handle these very specific things for you. And your specialist, it was always like, well, I would rather just use this dominant generalist because they're going to help me take fights 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or why would I use this champion when I could just use this one and do all of these things? But the game has grown so much. There's so much more about hard counters and nodes and things that are being required without it being ultra niche. That Command's really done a great job of this. That I think we want more specialists, right? Like Nimrod. Scorpion's a bit of a generalist, Hulkling, these sorts of things, we talk about it. Doom's like a good old-fashioned generalist where he's not just beating up on these cosmic champions for you, or he's not just beating up on energy damage, or he's not just handling buffs for you. He just handles so much, and he's so well made, so powerful, so overtuned, whatever term you want to use, that he's staying dominant despite the game often requiring hard counters, because he hard counters so many things that keep being come up with, and I don't see him slowing down. I really don't. Maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, but not anytime soon. He's definitely in my broken tier. I think he's someone I imagine when they're coming up with new champions and challenges and quests, they have to think about how easy is Doom going to make this. And then number 1. Is anyone really surprised, right? He overtuned, overpowered, all the words, all the adjectives. If you want buffs, he can get them. You don't want buffs, he doesn't need them. You need to crit, he's going to help you out with that. You need to not crit for some reason, he can kind of do that too. Do you need to stun? He's got it for you. How about you want to manipulate the defender's AI and make them a little more aggressive? He's got an infuriate. Annoying defender? He can also do that. Let's say you make a lot of mistakes. Unless it's Alliance War and they're running the Assassin's Mastery, he's going to go immortal for you. And as long as you're hitting the defender, he's going to stay immortal. He's phenomenal. He's amazing. He really is a blast to play. I do like it. He does plenty of damage without the recoil tree. You slap on the recoil tree, he's going to heal with them. He's incredible. And he's definitely the definition of broken. I am sure that they being Kabam has to consider him when they come out with new champions, when they come out with a new challenge, when they come out with new quests and those sorts of things. I will be very surprised if he's there as a 7-star. If he is, I'm going to want to get him. But there he is. So the king of the game, Hercules, he's the top rated champion on my list, and he's well in my broken tier, and he's the number 1 champion on my server's list by a good 60 points, which is a lot considering he had 256 total. 60, that's a whole other tier. You might not like him, and you might not like playing him, and I know a lot of people who don't, but I think we all have to agree he's very, very powerful. Thank you for watching all these. Thank you for going on this journey with me. I had a blast doing it. I actually did try to I see how long this video went, but I could have talked a lot longer about a lot of these champions. If you have specific questions about more of them, please check out all of the class breakdowns. And then we did do, or will be doing, I'm not sure when they're exactly going to come out, a pure 2022. And then we're going to revisit all this. We're going to do this all again in June. and we'll do it all again in December. It is a lot of fun. I've learned so much from my server, the way they're playing the game, and it really is going to influence how I do my monthly tier list as well, as far as helping get information out about what I think, right? It's very, very helpful knowing how people are playing the game and what they're prioritizing, and helping me get the information that I think I have that is helpful to you, the viewers. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what we got right. Let me know what we got wrong. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy New Year's and all of those things. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.